All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back to bless your screens for the second day in a row.
It's game day.
It's a game day doubleheader, couple good matchups here. I want to touch briefly, Rob, on this Titans Bills one, and then let's talk about the big one in probably the game of the week in tonight's late game. But first, Bills Titans. Let's talk about the big one in probably the game of the week. So, what do you think? 10 points? That's too much for me.
Yeah, I don't like laying the 10 with the Bills tonight. In fact, I'm leaning Titans in the plus 10. I've taken them in pick'ems, but it's only a lean, so it's not an official play for me. I think you could, Buffalo's even only generating 60% of the bets, so I can't even say it's a real fade the public play, banking on the 10 points with Tennessee. I just don't see enough either way to either, fade Buffalo, cover in the 10, or back Tennessee. I know Sean's on vacation now, but I know if he were here, he'd have more than enough to say about that Tennessee offense and Ryan Tannehill. So even with the 10 points and how that game went last week against the Giants in Tennessee, I expect them to play better this week. I expect them to put up a fight against Buffalo. I know they played them pretty well. They played them well last year. But again, it's just a lean for me on the plus 10.
Yeah, the only thing I am going to do, and it's going to be a part of the only official play that I have tonight, I am teasing that number up to 16.5. It's just so many points. Buffalo looked so good last week. The Titans looked so bad last week. I think it's a good bounce back spot, especially for the way that division is shaping up. It's still wide open for the Titans. Now, with the Colts being the Colts, it's the Titans' division to lose again. So all they have to do is go out there and handle business. And if somehow miraculously get a W, you're back in. Would they be in the 1 seed? No, tied for the 1 seed.
Well, they'd be 1-1. So I know. Let's see who's 2-0.
Jacksonville would have it because.
Well, Jacksonville, yeah. Well, they're 1-1. Yeah. So but anyway, it's still way early. But I think, like to your point, given what's going on in Indianapolis and the trouble that they're having, this is definitely an opportunity for Tennessee to take a step up in that division. I don't know if I see them get win tonight in Buffalo.
No, that's definitely a tough draw after a bad loss last week for them. No, I don't like any props in that game because I don't really know. I don't really know what's going to happen, and I've definitely put way too much thought into the Birds matchup. So we have our official plays leans on that one, and I think we just get straight into the bread and butter.
It's the one that matters.
Yeah. All right. I know you have an official play on this, and it's unlike us, but it is the play.
Yeah. No, I like the Birds tonight. Laying 2.5. I think it's recently crept up a little bit on the juice there. I think you have to give up 120 to get the Birds at 2.5. Got snuck them in a little bit earlier at on the even vig line. So I think there is a little bit of late money coming in on the Birds. At the most, I could see this maybe getting up to 3 with heavy juice on that Vikings plus 3. But all in all, again, I think you take out the bias season, the teams here, when just looking at the number and really the trends and where the money's flowing this week, I really like the Birds at under 2.5. I absolutely think it's a sharp play. To some extent, I think there could be a little bit of that week 1 overreaction at play here. The Birds not looking, particularly strong and closing out, really starting the game or finishing the game against the Lions last week, who, we now know after yesterday could be, pretty formidable team this year. And then the Vikings and how they looked against Green Bay, right? Taking it to Green Bay in week 1, similar to the, way New Orleans took it to Green Bay in week 1 last year. And now I think, while we were high on the Vikings coming into the year, there may be a little bit of an overreaction in the way that they handled Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay and Minnesota last week. And, we saw last night that, Green Bay is going to be just fine. Granted, it was against the Bears, but I would still expect that division to be pretty competitive. So with the little overreaction there, I do think there's value at the 2.5.
I think it's great. It's a great number for the Birds. So we were talking about this yesterday. The Vikings got the worst version of the Packers. You saw the real Packers last night. Mm-hmm. Handle business, get a division W. So they're not worried about where they stand in that division. I think with last week's Vikings matchup, everybody views the Vikings a little bit higher than they should. And like you said, we're both high on the Vikings, but I'm not ready to give them the keys of the car.
Right.
It's a big game. It's Kirk Cousins in prime time.
Yeah.
There's one defensive play that I do like a lot, and I think it's going to have to happen for us to weather the storm that is Justin Jefferson. Our D-line's going to have to bring pressure.
Yes.
And I'm looking at a number here. It's Brandon Graham to record a sack at plus 270.
Ooh.
I'm going to throw a half a unit on that.
Brandon
That's
Graham,
gonna be
yeah.
an official half a unit play for me. Him or Hassan Reddick, like somebody needs to step up and make plays on that D line, especially in the pass rush, because you cannot bring extra pressure with someone like Justin Jefferson out there.
Do you have the other sack numbers up there in front of you?
So I have Hassan Reddick at plus 225, Fletcher Cox at plus 350, which is actually an interesting number.
Well,
Josh,
yeah. How about Jordan Davis? Is he up there?
I have Hargraves at plus 280. I do not see Jordan Davis on this slate right now.
Yeah, well, that's not good. We don't want that, because what I was going to say, just like we mentioned on Tuesday, I want to see more of Jordan Davis this week, particularly against the Vikings and their run game, because I think this game, it ultimately comes down to how the Eagles handle business on the defensive side of the ball. I think the strongest, side of the Vikings is their offense, particularly their run game, even notwithstanding, the rising superstar that is Justin Jefferson. That run game is very strong. And so it starts up front with the Eagles, and particularly that interior defensive line. So both against the run and against the pass, we're going to look, I'm looking for them to anchor this thing tonight. Combination of, like I said, a little bit more of Jordan Davis than we saw last week against Detroit. And then, a combination with him in conjunction with Cox and Hargrave, handling that interior and really anchoring this defense, from the get-go, both from when it comes to stopping the run and the pass, and getting some pressure from the inside out on Cousins. Because when it comes to the run, Mike, I mean, the Vikings have a very solid, running game. I mean, it's a pretty good 1-2 punch with Cook and Mattinson there. I mean, Mattinson's one of these guys that, teams were clawing for before the season, before we got to the season, looking to try to make a deal around camp time or just coming out of camp. So I think the Vikings have the benefit of having two starting running backs, and I think they could, they mix them up pretty well too. They're able to do different things. So that's going to be a challenge, especially considering the concerns that the Eagles rush defense kind of really presented both at the beginning and at the end of the game last week. I mean, they opened the game with giving up, what was it, a 50-yard run to Swift in the opening drive, like himself a day against the Birds. So, you can only imagine what, Dalvin Cook, Mattinson, maybe, I'm expecting them to be licking their chops trying to get at this Birds defense from a rushing perspective. So for me, it starts there and stopping that Vikings run game, because if you do and force Kirk Cousins into passing situations, third and longs, that's only going to bode well for the Eagles. Gannon likes to run zone. You mentioned Kirk Cousins in prime time. Not particularly fabulous, his track record. Also, his track record against zone isn't particularly fabulous. So I think you can put him in some difficult positions, but it starts with stopping that run game.
Yeah, I mean, Dalvin Cook's rushing total 72.5. That's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot. So there definitely is not much respect for the Eagles' front four from the odds makers. And I do think Dalvin Cook deserves his respect. When healthy, he is a top 5 all-around running back in the NFL. And he has been for a little while. But I don't think he's talked about enough and doesn't get the respect he deserves nationally. Granted, the injuries definitely don't help. He's like CMC, just can't stay healthy for a season. But he looked great last week. Like, his stat line didn't jump off of paper, but on the TV, he got yards when they needed him to. I mean, he was getting 4-yard chunks every time. And then, him, he's dangerous. He could break off one for 15 to 20 at any given moment.
He's a game breaker, yeah. Yeah.
So he's definitely concerning. If he can get going early, this is going to be a really tough one for the Eagles.
What's Mattinson's prop at?
I actually do not see him on here, which I find to be strange.
On DraftKings?
No,
Or
I'm on FanDuel. I've
That's
been
weird.
leaning more towards FanDuel since DraftKings dogged me. Like these books, man. I miss the old school way. Keep the government out of it. They don't need to get involved. I'll see what it is at DraftKings, but DraftKings, it did just move to 3.
Yep.
So
And is
we knew
it
that was
with
gonna
juice
happen.
on that Vikings line?
Yeah, we knew that was going to happen.
Eagles even money on that +3?
Even money +3.
Or I'm sorry, laying the 3s even money.
Madison is 18.5
rushing yards.
That is actually, I believe, to be the play. I'm not going to make that an official play, but that's definitely something to think about. I mean, all he needs to do is get 6 touches, which he very well could. I don't know if they're saying to me that it's going to be a shootout, so he's not going to be on the field as much.
See, when you mentioned the Cook prop, what worries me with that in general is just the combination of the two and how, they distribute carries between the two of them. So that's why, if anyone, maybe I'm interested in seeing what Mattinson's was, and if it is 18.5, I think that's pretty low. I mean, it only takes one run, and the Eagles have given up gash plays on the ground. No, it just takes one for either one of these guys, and you're sitting pretty with either prop. So I don't know. I think I'm tempted to lean more towards the Mattinson one. With respect to Vikings props, I would also look towards. Nothing catches my eye too much with Justin Jefferson. I think he's very much liable to have a big game against the Eagles D today. I mean, has big games against everybody. He really is that good. And so obviously a key for the Eagles, both, whether it's Slay or Bradbury or a combination of both working on him with maybe a little help, that's going to be huge. But with the expectation that the Eagles are going to maybe give Jefferson a little bit of extra attention, maybe I would look into Thielen and Osborne markets. I know the Osborne reception prop market was getting a little bit of love. I know that line has been pretty juiced to I think it's about lane 160 for the over 2.5 on Osborne. But Osborne as an anytime touchdown scorer is interesting as well. I think that's something maybe worth considering for your same game parlays and those types of things. So that's really all I have in terms of Vikings props.
So if you think about it, everybody's singing Gannon's praises. Tonight, you need to take Justin Jefferson out of the mix. It's that simple.
It's easier said than done.
Easier said than done, but you need to find a way to get him out of the mix and make sure that the other guys beat you. I mean, his total's 94.5. That is insane. And rightfully so, it should be that number. But you cannot let that guy go crazy. Question for you, though. Do you think that they get Devonta Smith more involved today?
You have to.
And is Patrick Peterson covering him?
It may wind up working that way, right? Well, who would you expect? Well, you have Brown, and who's their number one, Vikings? Because you can see. I think the Vikings can maybe move coverage around. It depends on how they want to play AJ Brown after the week he had last week, and I would expect maybe him to get a little bit of attention again. Just like we said going into the season, Brown is putting up numbers and looks like the player that we thought that we had gotten for the first round pick. Looks great. So I would expect as teams maybe focus more attention on stopping Brown, those opportunities for Smith, Goddard, Watkins, they have to open up. And tonight, I think the Eagles have an advantage on the offensive side of the ball in general. I think they can move the ball on this team and score on them, particularly on the ground. So I do like Miles Sanders tonight. I like him to go above his rushing prop, 56.5. I think it might be up to 57.5 at some spots, depending on where you're looking. But I like Miles Sanders. I like them to get it going on the ground first against this Vikings team. Also in an effort to kind of neutralize that pass rush of the Vikings, which is more of the strength of their defense. So a combination of the run game, mixing things up there. I think the offensive line gives you enough strength from a passing perspective to then be able to allow Hurts to build from that run game to open things up in the passing game. And again, at that point, that's where I'm looking for, Hurts to distribute, I guess, the ball a little bit more amongst the receivers this week going in than last week, particularly Devonta Smith.
Yeah, I think it's the same. The Vikings defense is dealing with the same problem that the Eagles are with Justin Jefferson. You need to find a way to limit A.J. Brown. And, Shaft just brought up a great point. Jalen Reagor is going to fumble a ball on a punt. No doubt in my mind.
We haven't even touched on that. Jalen Reagor returning to Lincoln Financial Field in prime time. And he looked all smiles last week on the sidelines. I don't know if you saw that clip, but him and Jefferson and wide receivers coach, they're having a great old time, laughing it up. He's all happy. You know, he's in Minnesota. He's in a great situation. Hey, good for him. Happy for the kid. Like, you know, hope he makes the best of the situation. But I know that it is going to be hell for him tonight in Philly.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Anytime the name is called, anytime he's out on the field, God forbid he has to get back there and return a punt. If anything, I want to see how far his mentals have come in the past 6-7 months, right? I mean, we'll see how that goes. And I would think it would be, you know, close to what you would expect when Simmons returns, you know, come this fall winter. But it's going to be something of that level.
Dude, there is no way he makes that catch on that first punt. There is no way. And he looked like such a dick rider last week. He's like all over Justin Jefferson. Yeah. He is such a loser. But I will say this. I might just throw a little sprinkle on Jalen Reagor and Viking special teams defense to score a touchdown.
That would be classic Philadelphia.
That's what I'm saying. Let me just see what that
comes out. Hit Jefferson, throw in Jefferson's prop total as well. You could hit his over, him to score, and then Reagor to score, and the D to score, right? So, yeah, there's your chaos, anti-Philly chaos parlay tonight.
Yeah, that's plus 10,000. So, I mean, that alone. I will say, if he drops a ball or does anything stupid, they will not put him back out on the field the rest of the game. Yeah, just mentally, he can't handle it. I forgot about that storyline, actually. That's actually funny. That's how forgettable that dude is.
Yeah. Yeah, and his entire career or lack thereof in Philly.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there any defensive players that you think need to step up for us today?
To me, it starts with the D tackles. I think it has to start with the D tackles controlling the line up front, and then from there, I mean, it's all levels really when it comes to this Vikings offense. I mean, you need your D tackles to anchor that line. You need to get the pass rush going. You have, you know, White, whether it's White out there, Edwards. You got to have your sideline to sideline covered, and then of course the secondary has to step up in a big way with a formidable wide receiver group. Again, it's like we're talking about the way both these defenses are going to challenge or try to limit or contain the number one receiver on the other end. That should open things up for other receivers on each side. Devonta Smith, Adam Thielen, or Kenny Osborne, or even Goddard or Watkins as well on the Philly side. So I would look at some of those secondary third options as well.
Yeah, I think this game comes down to whose unsung heroes can make plays. Like, come tomorrow on ESPN, you're going to hear somebody's name get brought up. And they might not be unsung heroes, but it's going to come down to other guys need to win the game for their team. Whether it's a Goddard, Devonta, Osborne. But it's like Justin Jefferson is so goddamn scary.
Yeah.
Are you ready to say he's the best wide receiver in the league?
I mean, I think, you know, we can go pardon the interruption like style Jefferson versus Cooper Kupp, and we could argue each other until we're blue in the face. And I think you know, it doesn't really make a difference. I would definitely put them as 1 and 2. Yeah, absolutely. I think they're both the top receivers in the league. But big thing tonight that we haven't really gotten into is our quarterback, Jalen Hurts. I think that this, I mean, of course, right? This is the next, you know, biggest test for Jalen early in the season, primetime game against what looks like a very solid, formidable NFC opponent. And I know we talked yesterday, earlier last week on Tuesday about how this matchup could, you know, ultimately at the end of the year determine some seeding, right, in the NFC. So how does Jalen respond, take the next step with a big game like this? I have some thoughts, but I want to know what you're looking for out of Hurts tonight.
I want him to play like he deserves a real contract. I'm rooting for the guy. These are the type of games that you need Jalen Hurts to win for you, whether it be with his legs like he did last week or being able to move the ball around, because I just don't see A.J. Brown being able to go for $150 again. It just, if I'm the Vikings defense or the Eagles defense, I'm not going to let their guy beat us. They're going to have to find other ways to do it. So you got to move the ball around, get Goddard involved, get Devonta Smith involved. And he has the best nickname in football, in the Slim Reaper. I think that is hands down the best nickname in football. He needs to get more
Slim
involved.
Batman.
I think Slim Batman. Yeah, apparently they have a bunch of Batmans. What is that dude talking
that's
about?
very sleeping.
Yeah, I'm worried about him because these are these games where you're going to get those phone calls tomorrow on sports radio. Like, they need to move on from Hurts. I want to see Minshew in, yada, yada, yada. But I'm pulling for him, and the Vikings defense is far from scary. Like, Harrison Smith, they're formidable, but, like, you should be able to move the ball on them.
I agree. I think 40-40, between like the red zone, I think they can absolutely move the ball on the Vikings. To me, it's how does Jalen, does he take that next step? I want to see progression from last week. I didn't like the red zone offense last week. I don't know if anybody really did. I just thought that, you got to be able to, you're going to have to come away with touchdowns when you get in the red zone tonight, right? So how does he go through his reads, and is he making quick decisions in the red zone when you have the opportunity to punch it in? Because touchdowns are going to win this game. Field goals are this game.
Yeah, no, definitely. You need to be able to punch it in. And you said you didn't like the red zone offense last week. They had 4 rushing touchdowns in the red zone. 4 different players.
I
mean, to me, if I'm a play caller,
again, it was more
the run first.
Anytime they drop back, let me preface it. The passing red zone offense leaves a lot to be desired. Yes, we all know the Eagles can run the ball, right? They just have to do it. I have all the faith in the Eagles rushing attack, and I love the balance and the variety that you get with, a combination of Sanders, Gainwell, and Scott. Love it. They all reached the end zone yesterday. Great, or last week. Great. But when it comes to the passing game in the red zone, when that field shrinks, the decision time shrinks. You got to go through your reads quicker. It seems to exemplify or highlight, the shortcomings of Hurts. So that's why I'm looking to take a step in that area.
Rob, real quick, I just need to address one of these comments from a dear friend of the show. He's asking where my Eagles gear is. And honestly, I just have no excuse. It's just a lack of professionalism and lack of proper preparation on my end. I don't know where my visor is.
The Sirianni visor.
And I think that's just bringing such bad juju into a Monday night slate. I need to go dig that up and find it. Don't worry, it'll be on before kickoff. But a lack of preparation on my end for this cast.
I had the black midnight Kelly coverage. Honestly, what we should have done is come in hard with that Philly teal and yellow. That would have been nice.
God, that is the worst.
Yeah.
That is the worst. Yeah, so that's 110% on me. This league's all about accountability. This cast is all about accountability. So no excuse. I'm going to go find that visor as soon as we get off here. Is there anything cute you like putting in? I like the Brandon Graham bet. That's going to be an official play for me for half a unit. You're on the Birds -2.5. That's the play.
That's the play.
As much as we hate betting the Birds, that is the play tonight.
Yeah, I'm trying to what do we always say? We're betting on the number, right? So looking at the number, -2.5 is an official play. Cute stuff. Like I said, I like the Miles Sanders prop. I think it went up from 56 to 56.5 to 57.5 within the last day or so, but I still like him to have a solid game. So I'd buy in on Sanders too.
I just received a text. I know where the visor is. It was hidden from me. So
for good reason?
Yeah, I don't know, but someone is competing for our production manager's job, and they said they would do it for much less money, but they have informed me on where my visor is. So you know what? They were holding the visor ransom. so they can get hired.
Wow.
It's a dirty game. It's a dirty game.
It's a hot group. We're a hot group. Everybody wants a piece now.
Actually, Dawson Knox is going to have a day for them. Just seeing Gabe Davis is out. That has to make you feel a certain type of way, Rob.
Yeah, I'm a big Davis fan. I have him at least in one league. I figured, I think it was Friday or Saturday. I figured he was out, so I wound up putting in Higgins over him. But not that anybody cares about fantasy. But it's a big, I think Davis is in line for a big year this year, stepping up as a target for Allen. We saw that already last week. He got in the end zone. So yeah, you would look for other guys, to step up for Buffalo today. I'm not sure off the top of my head who would be that third option after Diggs. Of course, you mentioned Knox from the tight end spot. Maybe not a bad bet for anytime touchdown score. Again, like when it comes to like these Monday night games, like, if you want to throw in the $10, $20 same game parlay just to make it interesting, try to throw yourself in a lottery ticket like you see on the Twitter. Dawson Knox anytime touchdown score. All those second, third options for Allen become much more valuable, with the absence of Davis.
Yeah, I think the Birds are going to have to resort a little bit more to the run or the pass in the red zone. I'm sorry. I do like Goddard to get in the end zone tonight. I'm really big on him this year. I think he looked really good last week when they got him the ball, especially after.
Killed us last week. We had a touchdown prop. What was it? We came down to Goddard, whatever I threw out last week. And I was telling you yesterday, was it, when we were on the cast, like they put up 38 points, and for Goddard to not get in the end zone with 38 points, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, I mean, like I said with Smith, I would look to see both Goddard and Smith get a little bit more involved as teams start shedding more attention to A.J. Brown. Also look maybe, what about a Watkins rushing yard prop? Again, a little end around, just a little gadget play to get Watkins involved in the game, in space and moving with the ball at the line of scrimmage. So I don't know. I'm not sure what that prop sits at, but if we're talking cute, again, looking for ways to get the second, third options, the other guys involved in this offense, and trying to capitalize on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. This is a big game. It's only week 2, but this is a huge game. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it. I think we hit on all the big points, all the big keys, and whatever's worth playing. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the game. I can't wait. It's Eagles in prime time, so it doesn't really get much better than that. Are we wearing black tonight? Do we know what the Birds are rocking tonight?
You know what?
Doesn't matter.
We're not worried about fashion tonight.
Yeah.
Today's about what goes down in the trenches. I need to see something from the Eagles D-line.
Yeah.
I don't care about what they're wearing. I need to see push and extra effort today, and I'm really pulling for BG. That's my guy today. All right, well, yeah, that's really all I got. It's going to be a good one, and I even actually squeezed in a little nap just so I could stay up for it.
Yeah, this is one you got to stay up for. Hopefully.
Without that, there was no way I was making it to midnight. But yeah, I'm excited. This one literally tells me who is going to be fighting for that 1 seed in the NFC come the end of the season. So I love that the Birds are at home. I like the Birds -2.5. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
All right, everybody. Until next time.